about asking a question if you want anything that you want to know. Although we're not a specialist in the thing, we have the love of the whole place at heart, which I hope will show as we do the tour. And so come and join me in a little bit of magic. We all gathered. Make sure that we all can see. Come, it doesn't matter about us seeing, but as long as you can see what we're talking about. Now, this is Cloughbally Bog, where we are now. This is the little red dot here. And we have, it's in 4 areas: Rantavan Bog, Killyconny, Leitrim and Fagat. Fagat is in County Meath, and this is an ordnance survey of County Cavan, so that's why it's not included. But that, as you can see it, is about 1,000 acres of bog. And as you can see here, on this map here, in the 17th century, we had 17% of bog. Now, this is the high bog was mostly in the Midlands, and the bog, you know, the other bog, what do you call it?
The blanket bog.
The blanket bog was here along in the west. And you know, the blanket bog, it goes on the mountains, and it's a totally different area than the high bog here. And today, imagine, we have just 1% of bog left in the country. And I'm going to tell you a very startling fact, that 50% of the bog of the whole world is in Ireland. 50% of the bog that is just left in the whole of the world is in Ireland, 50% of it. So that is why it is so important to have a bog like this preserved, which it is preserved now, and it's going to be phased out over 10 years, that they can't cut turf or whatever else. Because you will see that with the bird life and the plant life and all that would be destroyed forever if we don't preserve bogs like this. It is so important that we have for the next generation. That one man from Kerry on our last group said that they're filling in a bog down in Kerry with landfill, with, you know, rubbish and waste. And we're going to have to think about our rubbish and waste, that we can't be filling beautiful places like this with waste. It's only just to think about it, that when you're throwing your things away, that we'll have to get an incinerator or something, not to be destroying our habitat. So it gives you an idea of the vastness of the bog, 1,000 acres of bog.
And it was part of the Tedford estate. And in 1921, he gave it to 12 trustees. Lord Tedford gave it to 12 trustees who were in charge of each part of their bog, you know. Yes. So that's who looks after. That's who looks after, and that's who actually owns it, isn't it?
It is. So it's the trustees that sort of mind and fight for the local people.
You know.
So come with me. Except that they're not fucking saying no plants or whatever. You just walk through the fields to them. But it's a wonder of the world to go over and to show the next generation.
This is how the bog is formed. There's 3 stages to the bog. It needs a wet and a cool climate, so that's why Ireland has 50% of the bogs left, you know. So that's the bottom layer, right? And that was the lake. The lake. This is marl. That's on the bottom of the lake. You can feel it's like chalk, you know, now it's pebbles and that. But that's the bottom of the lake, right? And this was 10,000 years ago. The lake formed after the Ice Age. And there was 2 lakes on this bog, and then they filled in. The fen then is the next area, and that's the peat, that's the peat that's formed, but it's decaying plants and that form this layer here, you know. And this is where that's where the best peat is. The further down you go into the bog.
The black turf. You often heard once you get to the black turf, you really have a good
And it was decaying plants. And if you look out of the bog pools, there's a pool out there, and it's like water. And then beside it, then you can see where it's coming in. All the plants are grown in on top of it, and that's how it forms the bog. You know. Then this one here, that's 4,500 ago. it stopped raining for a while in Ireland.
Imagine
for
it
500
stopped
years.
raining. You couldn't believe, but
You
it
know,
stopped raining.
and trees started to grow on the bog. And now that's where you get bog oak. That's the layer that gives you the bog oak, but it's actually not oak, it's a pine. It's Scots pine is what they found it is. There's some of it down there. That's it there, isn't it? Yeah.
Just lift
And
it
there's another piece. There's more. There's two big, huge pieces out there, and those guys out there, you see, they're carving.
You see the lovely carving afterwards. You see, it's
Yeah, well, that's
beautifully
all the
preserved.
bog oak. You know. So it comes all upwards then. This is the top layer, right? This is what everything grows on the bog. It's called sphagnum. Right, now it's 95, the bog is 95% water, but this is made up of 90% water, and the next one we have a plant, and you can just squeeze it, it's like a sponge.
We'll show you when we go
You know,
around.
but this is what everything feeds off in the bog.
And you see, when this place began first, there was 2 lakes. And you know, drumlins, you know, Cavan is full of drumlins. So there was 2 lakes in between the drumlin hills. And that's how this all started to form. And we will show you even where, say, the cutaway turf is, where it's starting to regenerate again. And I just want to show you, just give me that, we stuffed this down in the bog. And you can see how clean it is. That's why I often say in the bog, it's the healthiest place you could be. And oftentimes we were always told when we were doing the turf was, take off your shoes and it would be good for your feet. Because anybody who had anything wrong with their feet, it cleaned them like a whistle. And if you even had a ring now,
Yeah,
and
we're just have to clean and
cleaning
out
our
there
rings
we had
out
the muck,
there,
yeah.
out in the muck, a lady just took off our ring, and it was you.
No,
wasn't
I cleaned mine. The gold one came up lovely.
But it shows you that, you see, it's acid. Bog is acid. That's why nothing ever rots. That's why everything is preserved. You know, and it grows and it grows and it grows. It's the most unique place to think about. Like when you think that 10,000 years ago this began. Like it blow your mind really to think about it, doesn't it? To think that it's growing, what,
1 millimetre every year. So
It
it's
grows
you
1
know,
millimetre.
1 millimetre. So this bog is 10,000 years old. It's 10 metres in depth. You know, and you see it out further as well. We have a pipe going down which you can pull out, and it shows you the depth of it.
And do they ever excavate right down to the bottom, we'll say, to the black?
Yeah, well, that's where they get the best turf. You'll see them out there now. I mean, I don't think you can really. I don't know very much now about turf myself.
Well,
but
I
they
do.
cut
I reared
down.
turf for as long as for 30 years, I'd say, since I've been married. And we have reared turf. Marion Lynch there was on the bog as well as myself, and so were you, Seamus. And it's the most beautiful place you could be. Now there's an awful lot of people on it, and naturally the birds are gone and things are different when you all come. But it's the most peaceful place you could be. And when you're doing the turf, it's one thing, it's like a therapy. It's a place where you can just relax your mind and whatever else in this busy world. And I would often say to bring the children out, and I hope that you will learn something today that you'll pass on to the next generation, and pass on the love of your countryside, which is most important. Now we go to the next stage.
How wet it is. Sorry.
Because bog is 95% water. 95% water. That's what bog. And that's the most important, that's what makes the bog grow. See it? Yes, moss. Yes. Now, we have lichens. There's the bearded lichen, and there's a beard. As you can see, that's why it's called bearded lichen, right? You can see it. It's nearly, look, it's as hard. Feel them, that's it. You must feel. Can you feel it, Pat? Yeah. See it? Yeah, feel it. We'll be showing you. Now, isn't this a beautiful thing? This is the matchstick lichen. You see the matchsticks? Look, the little red heads in them.
That's the reproduction part of it, is the actual red, the colour.
Yeah.
That's the reproduction part of it.
Now,
There's other lichens out, they all grow together, but at different times of the year you'll find more. But there's a an example of the three of them grown together out on the bog, out further, you know. You just couldn't find very many examples at the table. This is a deer sage. It's kind of like a grass, but it also has a flower on it. You'll see it out further where it has the flower on it. It has a little yellow flower. A white flower, isn't it?
That's white flower, yeah. And this is the different, that's, you know, the heather. The usual
one of the heathers.
Lane heather.
And there's another one that's cross-leaved heather.
The cross-leaved heather, you know the other.
They have a different leaf on them. That's how you know the difference in the two of them.
And you know the bog cotton? The bog cotton that blows in the wind. You see it all down there and it blows in the wind. And it's just beautiful.
And there's two types of that as well. There's one that grows in a bunch and there's one that grows singly.
That's right.
But at this time of the year you don't find the bunched one.
Now the most interesting plant on the bog, and you wouldn't believe it, is this. That's the sundew plant. And it eats flies.
You see this?
See? Catches them and then
there, right?
closes. Can you see
the insects go
It
in there,
eats
right?
insects.
And they get stuck.
See it?
That's kind of.
I'll be showing them a way up where they grow. You see it?
And they
eats
go in
flies.
and eat it. No?
Can everybody see? It's the only plant that eats flies. It lives on flies. Now you notice that most of the plants that have just little short stems and that's, you know, to live on the bog is a very a harsh place to live. So most of the things are way down in the bog. They don't grow very tall. Maybe the sedge, but that's because it's, you see, it's very fine and it just blows in the wind. So make sure everybody has a look because everything is marked. That you can know your plants, and I'll show you.
Well, it's owned by 12 people, but it's only it's not really. I think it's owned by people.
These bugs here are called whirligig beetles because they just whirl around in circles. They sleep there the whole of their life, and they stop occasionally just to get food. And this fellow here, he's a water boatman.
Do you see the way he goes? You think he was rowing the? Yeah. Do you see
Oh,
him? Yeah.
Yeah, he's rowing the boat.
He's rowing the boat. Can you see him?
No.
See the little boat? Come here, Pet. You see the whirligigs? See them? Oh, whirligigs. And there's the little boatman there. Look at him.
Now, there's bugs in here which are called bog lice, and they're a bit like shrimp. If any of you have seen shrimp, they're like miniature shrimp. And in here there's more whirligig beetles. And these are pond skaters because they're skating on the top of the water.
On the top of the water. You see them skating around. I'll show you them on the bigger pond anyway.
Now that's a damselfly nymph. Not all of you can see them, but not all that exciting. They're what the adults. These are the adults here. These are the proper damselflies now. I might just pass that around and don't open it, whatever you do.
Pass
into these damselfly nymphs, and then the adults hatch out of that, out of the nymph there. Now it's pretty much the same idea with these. These are just bigger versions. They're dead. They're not dead. They're the skins of them.
You know the skins.
Now this what they hatch out of, and I suppose these are the nymphs now. The two nymphs look a bit alike, except that one there is much smaller, and it has a tail. And this over here, there's a big beetle on this board. Maybe you can point them out. And it hatches out of that. And the great diving beetle, it lays its eggs in the water. It's pretty much the same idea as the damsel.
And that's the other one. That's the damselfly there. They're the same idea really as butterflies, aren't they?
Yeah.
Kind of like coming from caterpillars to like the 4 stages. Yeah.
But the idea of this really is to get a picture in your minds of the age of the bog, and also to relate that to the depth of the bog. I mean, you've been told probably that the bog is formed about 1 millimetre every year. So that actually works out at about 1 metre every 1,000 years, 1 metre a millennium. Now the bog is 10,000 years old, so that means that it's 10 metres deep. And to try and get a picture of 10 metres, now we don't have a stick 10 metres long, although they'll show you some of you'll see the drainage rods up in the high bog, and that will give you an idea. But just to get a kind of general idea, this is, now I couldn't hold up one that was 10 metres, but this is about 3.5 metres high, this bamboo here. So if you imagine, it would take about 3 of those to get from the top of the bog right down to the bottom. So that's, or another way of looking at it, there's about 1 metre of the bog cut away here underneath me, and so there's about 9 times that under my feet and under your feet. So 1,000 years ago, this layer of the bog down here was laid down. That was just around this level here. So that was around the time that Brian Boru was High King of Ireland, and maybe another centimetre or so after that was in around 1014, when the Battle of Clontarf took place, when Brian Boru defeated the Vikings, who had ended any threat of Viking domination in Ireland. So between up to about 1100 was the next 100 years or so is when this section of the bog formed. Around about here, around about was around about 1169 or thereabouts, when Dermot McMurrough, who was the King of Leinster, and then had lost his kingship in battle with Relive. He was determined to get his kingdom back, so he came to an agreement with some Normans who were the rulers of England at the time, that they would help him get back his kingdom. So around about this, when this level here was laid down in 1169, Normans initially invaded Leinster and took over the city of Waterford. And the leader of the Normans, that particular group of Normans, was known as Strongbow. As a reward of sorts, he was married to Diarmaid's daughter Aoife, and he was to become the King of Leinster after Diarmaid, because he'd helped him get back his kingdom. And what Aoife thought about all this, we don't know. So that was around then. So if you came up to about here, you'd have around the year 1200. So over the next, say, few hundred years, while this section of the bog was being laid down, the Normans consolidated their hold over Ireland and had a fairly firm grip over at least the eastern part of the country. Now some of them got a little bit too Irish as far as their rulers were concerned, and started to settle in and adopt Irish customs, and were in a sense becoming more Irish than the Irish themselves. Around 1369 you had the statutes, and the law passed called the Statutes of Kilkenny, so that would be around about here, say, where the Normans were forbidden from wearing Irish clothes and speaking the Irish language. So the next section of the bog here actually formed around the time of the Renaissance in Europe, when there was a great flowering of art and culture, and also of discovery and exploration. So while this formed here, you had Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo and so on, and around about here, around the year of 1469, the year that Columbus discovered America. Now when they say he discovered America, obviously the people who lived there knew it was there, but Europeans had to clue that America was there, and in fact he discovered it by accident. He was trying to find India, and America got in the way. So this section of the bog here corresponds to around about that era. So if you came up to about here, you come up to about 1600. So say around about here, in the year 1601, around about when this layer of the bog formed, you had the Battle of Kilsyne. That was the final battle of the 9 Years' War, when a lot of the great Irish chieftains like Hugh O'Donnell and Hugh O'Neill were attempting to regain their independence from English rule, and they actually had some help from Spanish who had landed down in the south of the country, and so the Battle of Kinsale was fought and it was lost by the Irish chieftains, so they actually, over the next few years, they emigrated and left the country. It was known as the Flight of the Wild Geese. I'm sure some of the children who go to school here actually could probably tell me more about some of this history than I can tell you. But if you look at this section of the bog here, that corresponds to about the next 100 years. So just about here would be roughly around the time of 1690, when you had the Battle of Boyne between supporters of William of Orange and his father-in-law, King James II. And that battle is certainly well remembered and commemorated in the north of Ireland to this day, and not without some controversy about the methods of commemoration. So you'd be up to about 1700 at this stage of the bog. So the next section here was formed over another 100 years. Around about here then you'd have, around about when this layer formed, you'd have the 1798 rising, which was just the 200th anniversary of which was just there last year. And around about here, this section of the bog was formed around about famine times, and the great famine, population of Ireland halved, 2 million people died, another 2 million emigrated, and it was obviously had a huge effect on Irish society. So if you come up about another just 5 centimetres, you'd be about up to the year 1900. So this last chunk here represents our own century. So say around about this bit here would roughly correspond to the 1916 rising, and just maybe another little bit above that you'd have the formation of the first law and subsequently the foundation of the Free State. So if you came right up to the top here, you would have roughly the current year, and another millimetre further next year you'd have the millennium. One date I've been asked not to forget is actually represented by this dot here. The around about here would be 1947 when Cavan beat Kerry at the Polo Grounds in New York. So that's 1,000 years of history, and at 1 metre the bog, 9 metres and 9,000 more years under our feet. And you can actually see here just off to the side in this pool here that's formed in the cutaway section, the bog is in a sense regenerating itself. First of all the pool, and then the moss is taking over the pool. So that's actually how the bog forms and grows back. So if you could come back in another 1,000 years, you'd find that it has grown another metre.
We'll not.
Oh, well. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Emer. We have everybody looking for them. And the other one is of a reindeer as well, and they aren't extinct. They all live in the North Pole.
You know, Santi goes, that's you know,
where
the
they all
reindeers.
Now, the other things are chalices and all the rest. If you were listening to the history, like all the different invasions and all the rest, the chalice, obviously, they have found chalices. They found a sword over, what bog was it they found that sword, Aileen?
Pardon?
Quilca, is it?
Yes, Quilca. Yeah,
Bog,
Quilca Bog.
Sword. I don't think anything has actually been found on this bog because it hasn't been excavated that much, this bog. You know? So there was also the lakeshore dwellers.
The lakeshore dwellers used to live and whatever else. And of course, naturally, they brought their sort of their implements and what they used. As a matter of fact, if you were out there, you saw how many uses the heathers were brought, even for cleaning pots and pans, and maybe for putting on the spray on the potatoes. You know, years ago that mixed the bluestone and the whatever, the soda. They didn't, you know, it wasn't man-made. We had to mix all these things and sort of spray them on the potatoes for the blight and all that kind of thing. So it was a much more sort of a quieter life or whatever, and we had time for everything, and time for storytelling, and time for people, which I often wonder nowadays in this beautiful place that we have, that we don't have time to stop and stay. Even though you might go out for your walks, always look at the birds and the flowers and wonder how beautiful they are. And if we hadn't them today, and to preserve them for our next generation, it would be totally lost to us all. And to me, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will not fade into nothingness, but still will be here for our pleasure. So think of things like that when you walk around in these places of beauty and of competition that Phil and Brian organise every year, and it's the cutting of the turf, which they did in the... When would we begin at this, Brian? In the 40s, 30s, 20s?
Long before that.
Long before that.
It came into prominence during the war when there was no coal or...
That's right. And you see, there's an art in a sort of getting ready the whole bog bank, and you take the top off the shanks. There's names and everything for all this kind of thing. Now, Phil will explain.
Taking it too serious or anything like that. The gentleman cutting there now is a good exponent with the slaying. He's Packy Shorten. What he's cutting with is a breast slaying, and that was the slaying that was used all the time in this area. It's called a breast slaying, of course, because you're working it across your breast the whole long day. There's another type of the slaying, it's wing slaying. Well, it's what you dig the sods down with it, but it was never used on a general run around here. Turf was the general fire stuff there was here, and of course the bog really came into its own in the war years because there was no oil or no coal coming, and everybody had to go to the bog. And even industries, gypsum industries and all them, they had a Cavan County Council, all them had to go to the bog to keep the boilers burning. And it certainly came into its own. It would be no big deal at them time to see a couple of hundred men across on that face of a bog there. There'd be a family or a group on every 2 perch, on every 14 yards of that high bank. You'd have a different group of people. The bog was set in that way. It was set in 2 perch face or 4 perch. You went to the bog at about 8 o'clock in the morning and till 6 in the evening, and you cooked on the bog. You cooked your dinner and your tea. The two of them consisted of the one menu. You had bread and tea, and if you were lucky, eggs maybe. And it was cooked on that fire like that there. The water was boiled in a black kettle like that one, and there's the black teapot up there. It served its time on the bog in the war years. The tea out of them didn't kill anybody. It was the best of stuff. A great colour to it and all. But you worked on the bog from about May on till October or around that time. Cut away all the year, and then they were cut in that way there, and they were wheeled out and spread on the bank to dry, and then they were put up in stages like that. What Patsy Maguire is sitting on there was called a button or a crossbar. The next one is a sod and a half, and that one there is a square. And then when you got them drier on, you put them in things like that up there on the high bank. That's a churn. And that was nearly the final stage. They were brought out then to the road, and they were either put in a rick or drawn home. The surplus was sold by the horse load or the donkey load in Kells and Bailever. The wages at that time, the beginning of the war years, the wheeler got 2 old shillings a day, and the cutter, if he was lucky, got 4 shillings. So you can see the sort of money that was involved in it. You'd go with your load of turf to Kells. If you were lucky, you sold it by the load. Maybe you got 6 shillings or 8 shillings for it. And if you didn't sell it that way, you had to sell it door by door, counting them. 6 sods a penny. And the women had come to the door in Kells, and all them lanes in Kells, they'd come to the door with a bag or with their apron, some of them, or a basket, and you give them twopence worth, whatever they wanted, about 6 sods a penny, and that way you'd make about 8 shillings off your load. What he's cutting there in front of him, that's what they call a 4-sod bench, and there's the height of 5 of them after they're down, and that would be the worst bench of them all. That's the top one. and it's the worst type of turf. It's light, and as you go down deeper, the turf are getting blacker, and you will go down about 5 benches now at that would be 20 sods, and then the water would put you out of it. The water would start coming in, because bog is 90% water, and when you create the hole, the water would fill up. So that's about the general gist of it now.
Thank you very much. And this is what we're trying to preserve. That is what bog is made of. That's what grows the bog, the sagnon moss. You see it everywhere. And isn't it beautiful? And the colours of it, I just feel it. That is beautiful now. And so you bring that home now, and you can show your other friends what you saw at Cloughbally Bog today. Now, I want to show you the flowers.
Sorry.
Leaves or big flowers or big anything. It's all very small. It's so dainty, the little flowers on that white sage. So over here now, flower. But you wouldn't even think that grew there. So that's what you build up, you know, and there's you have all your heathers and whatever. That's the beard. Yeah. And you can there is a smell of it at certain times.
Strongbow, is it?
You'll only get filthy too. I think he's getting a bit weak. He's been at it a lot today, like, you know.
Yeah, it shows you how deep the bog is.
There.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Huh? Now, you see how deep it is?
Oh boy. Yeah.
Now.
And when you think of that it's 95% water, you know.
Yeah.
It's amazing, like the way it grows in on top of each other.
You see, if you cut away, you know, when you begin to sort of get a bank ready for cutting, if you cut away that, you'd sink. You'd just down, sink, until it dries off. You can see the way they dry off their banks or whatever, and cut away the place, and keep the water away when they're cutting the turf. If I might have all your attention now just for a minute, I want to tell you about all the interesting places we have in our parish. We have St. Kilian's Heritage Centre, a most beautiful quality building with all the heirlooms of St. Kilian. And plus there's a video of the bogs by Eamon de Butler. You know Eamon de Butler? And it's worth going to there if you have time. And also we have Shackleton's, which is Mortimer's beautiful walled garden, open to the public, of all the old plants that grew in these walled gardens years ago. And they have plants from all over the world. And it is a most beautiful place to go to, just about half a mile over that way. We have Champel Kelly, which is the old graveyard where they buried, say, in the famine time, they had sort of just mass graves. I mean, people weren't even buried. When you think of it, it is a very sad time to reflect that people died and they weren't even buried, some of them. So we have in that graveyard a memorial to the famine people of our parish of that time. And the oldest grave in Champel Kelly is about 1600s, and especially anybody with a camera or whatever else, there's a grave which tells like the time, and it's all etched out on the headstone, and it's the most beautiful etching I ever did see, and it's probably even older than the 1600s, but it would be worth anybody's while that is interested in that type of thing to go and see it. And of course it's along the lake, and it's very, very beautiful and scenic. And to think that over there we have Lough Crew, and we have Kells, the Book of Kells. But in our area it is a place of great heritage, and I would like to think that you would take away both the love of the bog and the love of our parish. And I want to thank you all for coming, and we love having you here, and I hope you enjoy.
Thank you very much.
They have to be taken from the spots.
Can you give me a wave? Hey, TP.
My name is Paddy Morgan. I'm a conservation ranger with Dukas. That's the people that look after all the wildlife in Ireland. And in 1976, they brought out this Wildlife and the Law, the 1976 Wildlife Act. And that is to protect all the birds and mammals and where they live and breed here in Ireland. And it was very necessary legislation. We enforce that, and it's an aspect of the job that I'm not crazy about, because I have been threatened on a few occasions to be shot and had a few people in court as well. But I want to explain about this exhibition. These are my own personal property that I have built up over this past 19 years. I want to hastily add that these birds and mammals that you see on display here were not, and I emphasise not, deliberately killed just to have them on show here at Mullagh, or anywhere else for that matter. Back in 1980, when I came into the Wildlife Service, I used to go around the schools that time with slides and a projector. And there was one day I was in Monaghan town and this man stopped me on the street and he says, "Aren't you Paddy Morgan?" I says, that is correct. He says, "I want to see you for a minute." I say, "What's wrong?" He says that there has been a wild deer shot out beside where I come from, a place called Dunraymond in Monaghan. So I have the same power as a Garda, but we haven't the power to enter dwellings. We have power to go into search outhouses on farms or whatever. But I got a search warrant and went out to this farmhouse, and it was one of the most disgusting sights ever I've seen in my life, because tied to a beam in an outhouse was this big red deer. And laying on the ground beside it was the head and the antlers. So the Gardaí and myself, we seized it, and the people were prosecuted for shooting it. And that really put me on the map, as it were, because it made the headlines of the local newspaper in Monaghan, the Northern Standard, saying why Red Deer's throat was cut. You know, it was horrible reading. But I thought it was an awful pity to just, it was perishable, as you can understand, and it became government property once I seized it. So I had to get a special licence from our people to keep the head and antlers, that was my first visit ever to a taxidermist, ever, in 1980. And as a result of that, when I went into the taxidermist, he had a private collection of his own, and I said, wouldn't this be great to have in schools, you know, some exhibits like this for pupils like this here, that would learn about the fauna of Ireland. Fauna, I hastily explain, is the birds and mammals that frequent the different habitats in Ireland. And that's how this all began. I started to buy some of these from the taxidermist at the very beginning, but it got so expensive. Then when I went to primary schools, I would say to the pupils in the schools, look at, boys and girls, if you ever find a wild bird dead, it could be around your own home, it may be along the roadside, wherever you find it, don't bury it or throw it away, ring me. And that's how this exhibition got to the point it's at now. I got another 5 specimens yesterday from a woman that has a cat that loves killing birds, and I don't like that, but I mean, they didn't destroy them, you know. I mean, they're birds that I use, again, they're in the freezer at home. And but most of these are road casualties or died of natural causes, either disease or old age. And I have a cross-section of birds and mammals that are found from the coastal regions of Ireland to the inland rivers and lakes, to bogs, and that's very relevant here today, Mullagh Bog, and then, of course, to mountainous areas, woodland areas, open farmland areas, and hedgerows and garden birds. So there's a little cross-section here of everything that's found in this country. Now, when I say a cross-section, because there are over 300 different wild birds in Ireland, I have about 140. So I have a long way to go. If ever you find a wild bird dead, then don't forget to ring me. My telephone number's on that poster there as you come in. Now, looking at the exhibition from left to right here, and I classify, I didn't take them with me today. I have one. Yeah, around all the stuff, correct. And see on all around. They go somewhere else next year. I guarantee you. Yeah. That's very good.
These are the mink, these are the white.
No, they're supposed to first. This is the mink down here, the grey, the brown, the white.
As well as things are mixed.
I'm 7 miles Chidi, 7 miles Bailey, 7 miles Valleyvale, 7 miles Monaghan. I'm just in the middle there, you know, over these. They're just equidistant between those areas.
The grain, yeah.
19 weeks out of it.
How are you living on? What is
I suppose we didn't, yeah.
This is your marquee, isn't it? Yeah. What are you going to say?
They're just there. They're not ours.
It's in our name. No, Paul. How's it going, Jim? Well, that girl wouldn't look my way.
All you have to do all you have to do is look at her.
Did you enjoy your day on the bog?
I had a
Oh,
great
it's great, yeah.
And did you see your man running the turf?
I did. I
And
wonder who is
And
he?
the mud.
And you running
And
after him?
his dirty legs.
You'll have a job tonight.
I will. I have to scrub them down.
Washing his toes.
I will, yeah.
Quite nice.
Johnny, I told you to put Johnny.
We're better good enough without that.
Oh, that'd be up on
Tonight, where are you going to show it tonight?
No, I was sure. I was talking to two others as well there as well. And I was sure that if I didn't get
I'd love to do something else.
they were pretty sure the same.
I don't do cameras. This is our promotion.
Oh my God!
Maybe a heckler. Maybe a heckler.
Go try another top.
And winning the turf cutting competition for the second year in a row, retaining the trophy. It was a very close competition this year, won by 1 mark, but obviously the class comes to the fore. Well done, Brian.
That says I'm getting a year older, so that you tighten it up.
You're going to try with a 3 in a row next year. Okay, well done.
Thanks very much now.
Okay, thanks Jim. Right. Everybody that competed in the competition this year, we had a great turnout this year, and the marking was extremely tight. A few marks covered all of the turf cutters, and congratulations to Brian again for just coming out and told us. But thank you very much to all of the other gentlemen who travel here to this competition. We really appreciate them coming, and they add an awful lot to our day here for us. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much now.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much, Brian. Well done.